everybody, welcome back to Straight Betting. Today's video is going to be a little different. Obviously, guys, we don't have NBA today, but the regular season did just end. And honestly, today, I kind of just want to break down the season and, share my thoughts and, what I learned this year, which led to me having such a great season. All these things that I'm about to share collectively really played a role in developing me into like a very solid NBA bettor and really helped me, make a fair bit of money betting on the NBA. So before I share these tips, guys, if you enjoy this type of content, if you find this content valuable in any sort of way, just make sure to drop a like and sub to the channel. And actually before that, guys, I completely forgot to recap the days. Well, I didn't forget. There wasn't any NBA games on Saturday, and then on Sunday, I just did a stream. So here's a quick little recap of the last 2 days. And of course, guys, if you want to skip this, there are time codes down below. So on Friday, we double dipped on Rudy with his PR, double, winning on a spot that we loved. He had a career high in points, so I'd say that was a pretty good read. Devin Booker under PR. That was, a game where they had nothing to play for. He didn't play in the fourth, and, the game was semi-close, so I think he would have came back in. Or no, he wouldn't have came back in regardless, so pretty happy with that read. Gafford over 14.5 PR came through fairly. Actually, I think that was kind of sweaty, but he did get there against that Raptors team with no center. De Silva over 12.5 points. That one was also very sweaty, but the minutes were great. When I saw him starting as a young guy who has not been in the rotation recently, I'm like, okay, this dude's probably going to play really good minutes regardless. And so it's pretty much a minutes bet and came through on that. And then THT against the Wizards. Dude's a good scorer, man. So yeah, he came through there, no giddy, and yeah. And here's a recap of the final NBA Sunday, and that was a lot of fun, man. But started off with Jalen Tyson over 5.5 rebounds. That came through. That was, that one should have lost. He hit in overtime, so pretty lucky there. Jamison Battle over 13.5 points. I don't know what he ended up with, but I know I checked the box score in the first quarter, and he had 18 points, so that was a pretty good read. Same with Jaime. That was a really good read. He, I believe, had 40 points. Draymond Green over 1.5 threes for plus 170. I think he had 4 threes, shot 6. Knew Zubac is going to be on him, kind of just sagging off him, leaving them pretty open. So, Draymond, you never know if he's going to make it, but felt like a pretty good spot for him to take them. And, he happened to make them today. So that was great. And then, guys, Anthony Edwards, 7+ threes. I put a half unit on this. This one is just obvious to me, right? The Timberwolves were like 23-point favorites against the Jazz. Yes, they had to win the game. But Malik Beasley made, I believe, 7 threes earlier. So it was like a 1 3-point difference between Beasley and Ant, right? So Ant needed 7 threes to, lead the league in threes. And, I just bet it. And, once the Timberwolves kind of started to pull away, Ant was absolutely chasing it. So, yeah, I felt like that was a, very good edge and took advantage of it. And then loser, Julian Phillips over 9.5 points, guys. I don't know why this 5-1 plus 7.4 units is so ugly, but I guess the font doesn't stack them correctly. But yeah, Phillips came up short. He ended at 9. Wasn't the best read. He didn't play huge minutes. He didn't get the garbage time run either, like how I thought. So anyways, guys, we end the season, as you can see, 359 and 235 for plus 104.46 units and a 15.7% ROI. Absolutely awesome season, guys. Couldn't be more stoked. Very, very proud of, the work I put in and, how I've improved as a bettor over the past couple of years. So for the 4 tips, guys, first one I'm going to start off with is when to bet. The 2 best times to bet by far are in the morning, right, when there's still edges. They haven't been completely eviscerated by the overnight folks. But you get up early in the morning, you look at the board, find some stuff that has value. Don't overexpose yourself here because there's so much variance. And the number one thing about betting early, and this is going to be controversial to some people, don't bet unders. Just please don't bet unders. If you do, you have to feel insanely good about it. When you bet unders in the morning, you just subject yourself to so much bullshit. It's actually ridiculous because, it's the NBA. It's a super long season. Just people get ruled out so much all the time. And if you're like a precise bettor who really likes to think the game, think the matchups, like a very small, injury could really affect a ton of stuff. Or say you take an under on like the 7th man on the bench and then the 6th man's out. And it's like, oh, well, now the 7th man who I had projected for 18 minutes is now going to play 26 minutes. And then you just made like a terrible bet, but it's stuff that's out of your control. And when you bet overs in the morning, all that bullshit can, actually help you, obviously, with people being out and, your player getting more usage, a star randomly being ruled out. I mean, guys, this stuff happens all the time in the NBA. So honestly, guys, number one advice, I would mainly only bet overs and really stay away from the unders early. The second time to bet is right before tip. Right before tip is awesome. Obviously, guys, if you actually bet money and you want to, bet, 100 plus 200 or something like that, I mean, that's when the limits are going to be high anyway. So it's a great time to bet. But being able to see out the starting lineups and really handicap the game from like an individual matchup perspective, I found very, very beneficial. Sorry guys, I had to switch the lighting a little bit. That shit was all up in my face. But this mostly happens in the playoffs, but you know, it'll be like, oh, I like this centers over threes because he's mobile and the center he's going up against isn't mobile. Well, maybe the coach is thinking the same thing, and all of a sudden that immobile center is not starting anymore, and that can completely also screw up your bet. So just waiting for the starting lineups helps a ton as well, and also it's great for limits and when you're actually betting. That's also when all the role players are going to be listed, because in the morning there's not a ton of role player lines listed. So yeah guys, bet early, bet overs, and then just do nothing. Enjoy your day throughout the day, and then just come back before tip off and give it a second glance, check the injury reports. I think that's the best way to go about this by far. I found a ton of success doing it this way. Second tip, role players have way more value to bet on than star players, and this is pretty obvious if you just sit back and take a look at it. Way more people are going to bet on stars. Stars have way more minutes played, way more data behind them. It's way easier to price a stars line, completely accurate than it is, a role player. Like seriously, just think about it. Whose points line do you think is going to be more accurate? LeBron James or Santi Aldama's? When you really get into betting role players and stuff and projecting them for minutes and, projecting out their like points per minute, rebounds per minute, all that stuff like that, but just like really looking at basic data too. Like it doesn't have to be all complex. I mean, you'll just find like edges that are like, oh, wow, I have this dude playing 24 minutes and his PRA line's at 13.5 and it's his projected PRA should be like 18.5. It's just like crazy stuff with role players that is, way off, especially compared to stars. And that type of stuff, you'll never see those, edges on stars props. Yeah, guys, I know it might be juicy to bet Luka Doncic over 29.5 points, Giannis over 30.5 points, and that's your card for the day. But to be honest, guys, you probably just really don't have an edge betting on these superstar players. Their lines are very efficient. So bet more role players. Be comfortable with it. Be comfortable betting on players, who are going to take shots who aren't good shot makers, right? Because, you're betting on volume. Tip number 3 is going to be that you have to do this every single day. Keeping up with the NBA, it's a grind. It's a super long season. Like I said, it is a grind, but I will say, missing like a week or two, it will completely throw you off rhythm. You'll kind of like, forget what's going on with the league. Maybe some rotations will change, some defensive schematic things will change, injuries will change, just little stuff like that. Like getting up in the morning and doing this stuff every day, it just really keeps you in sync with everything, and it makes your betting process so much easier. And like I said, guys, it is a grind, but let's be real. In life, you're not going to be good at anything if you, half-ass it or don't put a ton of effort in. Like you have to put in work to be good at anything in life. And honestly, betting on the NBA is the exact same. So yes, obviously, like you need like a mental health day, take a day off or two, but like don't be taking these long breaks, and try to really do this almost every single day. And I think that will lead to a ton more success for you as well. And the fourth thing too is a thing that the sharps may disagree with, but I'm going to say it. I think that ball knowledge is the number one thing for being a good NBA bettor. You can look at all the data you want, and trust me, there's really good data. In fact, there's data tools that I would be absolutely lost without, and I need data. But you can have data and not know ball and be a fine bettor. But once you learn how to utilize data and know ball, that's like when you'll really become a super, super good bettor. Now, how do you increase your ball knowledge? Well, kind of piggybacking off of step 3, right? It's watching games, not every day, you don't have to do that, but it's staying in tune with the league every day, staying up to date with schemes. Honestly, guys, this is a self-plug, but it really is like listening to what I do on Straight Betting on the live streams. So people like me, people like Hips and Jacob on their show at the board, those are also, two guys who really know what they're talking about, and, their show is going to give you the same value of just, how do people bet? And it's very helpful listening to people who know what they're doing and just like picking their brains. But it's also just like listening to tactical NBA podcasts. Obviously, guys, like the ESPN stuff, those shows aren't tactical. They're not X's and O's and stuff. But like a show like the Dunker Spot by Nikias Duncan and Steve Jones, like I used to listen to them all the time, and they do a great job, and they really break down the game and talk schematics. And just listening to stuff like that when you go for like a walk or incorporating that into your podcast miss. It might sound goofy, but little stuff like that can really make you like a really good NBA bettor. So yeah, guys, that's going to do it. But I really hope you enjoy this type of content. I really think it is valuable for, someone who's trying to become a better bettor at the NBA. But yeah, also, if it was boring as hell, let me know down below in the comments, and I'll make sure to stop doing these type of videos. But anyways, guys, NBA playoffs are starting up. So, me and Liam Ozbets, we will be recording some overnight YouTube videos, checking out the lines, breaking down the games pretty much every night for the NBA playoffs. So excited to get into that. And, you know, that's going to be, you know, something you'll want to tune into, because I think we'll be dropping some gems and, you know, talking some good stuff about the games. With that being said, enjoy your Monday. Hopefully you guys found value or received value from this video. And yeah, you guys have a great rest of your day.